come and speak to you about the senior circuit breaker, which is a tax relief for seniors 65 years and older. And hopefully you'll be eligible for it. Brian will give you the rundown of eligibility and criteria and so forth. So it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary Ann, and thank you to the Senator Tarr for inviting me to come up and talk to you folks. So I hope you can benefit for this, by this. It's a credit available for the Commonwealth of Mass through your income tax return, and it's designed to help seniors to offset their rising real estate tax. Okay? So the general idea is, number one, you have to be over 65 in order to qualify to be eligible, right? So most seniors are on a fixed income. However, we all realize it seems like our real estate tax or our rent seems to go up every year, right? So this credit is in place through the Commonwealth of Mass to try to help offset that, provide a little bit of relief of that imbalance of fixed income, rising real estate tax, okay? So it's a very straightforward calculation. It's really easy. That's why they sent me to talk about it, because they couldn't give me the easy stuff. If it was more challenging, I wouldn't be here, okay? So there are some income eligibility things that we should talk about on my handout. On the right-hand column, under 2023, if you're single, your total income for the year has got to be under $69,000. If you're married, filing a joint return with your spouse, the total income has got to be under $103,000. If you file together with your spouse, as long as one spouse is 65 by the end of the tax year, then you still qualify, you're still in the money, right? I know this is an expensive town, and there is we need to think about another eligibility issue is the assessed value of our principal residence here in Massachusetts. The assessed value of your home cannot be more than $1,025,000 or 23. Okay. Let's talk about the calculation. It's really straightforward, very easy. So what I want people to do is kind of bundle up all of your income. So you might have Social Security, some type of pension, maybe some bank interest perhaps, a distribution from your IRA account. So all of those statements that kind of came pouring in January, so you probably have kind of a pretty good idea of what your income is like for the year. I want you to take 10% of that amount. That's half of the story right there. The other half is you probably know what you're paying in real estate tax to the town. To your real estate tax, you're able to add half of your water and sewer bill to your real estate tax. This credit is going to kick in, or it's going to help out someone when their real estate tax, together with half of their water bill, becomes greater than 10% of their income. So let me just use an example. Okay, throw out some numbers, right? My income perhaps maybe is $50,000. 10% of that we know is $5,000. Once my real estate tax, together with half of my water and sewer bill, becomes greater than, in this example, $5,000, the credit is going to kick in. I'm going to be eligible for this circuit breaker credit. In whatever amount that is over 10% of my income. So let's say that my real estate tax and half my water bill is going to come up to $5,800. I'm $800 over my $5,000 in this example. So my circuit breaker credit is going to be $800. Everybody has different income. Everybody pays different real estate tax. So everyone's credit is going to be different, right? I like to think of that 10% of my income as kind of a break-even point. If your real estate tax, together with half of your income, is not quite up to 10% of your income, the credit is not going to help you out this year. It's not going to work for you. Perhaps in the years coming down the road, when your real estate tax maybe increases a little bit more, or your water bill goes up, but you're still on a fixed income, at least you're aware of it, and maybe the credit will help you out in years ahead, right? Or even for 2023, maybe it will help you. So maybe your real estate tax currently, and half your water bill, is greater than 10% of your income. That's really what it's really designed for. Renters can qualify as well. So it's not, you don't have to own your home to qualify. If you're paying rent, you're eligible as long as you're not in any type of subsidized rental arrangement. Like if where you're living, if the rent is subsidized by the federal government or the state, or perhaps you're living in like a religious, charitable rental arrangement, then unfortunately the thought is that you're already getting a discount or a benefit on a reduced rent, so therefore you wouldn't be eligible for this credit. Okay? So it's really straightforward, it's very simple. 10% of my income, and what's my real estate tax and half of my water bill. Do you guys have sewer or septic yet? Septic. Okay, we're going to talk about septic in a minute too. So once my water bill, half of my water bill together with my real estate tax becomes greater than my income, boom, it's working for me, right? It is part of your state income tax return. So when you file your income tax return, if you go to a tax professional and they do the taxes for you, they should be very familiar with this. If you go to someone, this should be no surprise to someone that does taxes for a living. It's been in place for 20 years. So on my handout, I'm providing you with numbers. I know it looks like a lot of numbers. I'm giving you the information for 2023, because everyone's working on their 2023 tax return now. But the prior 3 years are also open. They're also available. And let's say that sometimes people come to a session like this, they just learn about it for 23, and they say, you know, I think this is going to help me out. I think I might benefit by this. They've been 65 for the past few years. You're able to claim the credit or the refund going back the prior 3 years, if you're able to do it. So there are two things that come into play. If you had your taxes done, maybe you want to go home and look at line 44 on the left. Sometimes people say, I don't know if I got that. I don't know if my tax guy, if he gave it to me. You might want to go back and look at your prior year tax return, 22 or 21. If you have an amount on line 44 of your state tax return, you got the credit. And also, you know when you leave your tax professional and he gives you a nice package of information to go home, and here's all your copies with you, right? Nice little brochure, pamphlet thing. So with your state return attached, if you got the credit, there's a Schedule CB that would be part of your state tax return. And I mentioned that on my handout. You can see that I talked about Schedule CB. Schedule CB is, if you do paper, like the old method, right? There's a schedule in here, Schedule CB for circuit breaker. That's where you do the calculation. That's where you're going to do the math. Total income, 10%. Real estate tax, half my water bill. Do the comparison to determine how much of a credit you're going to get. Everyone's credit could be different. Some people tell me, oh, I didn't qualify. Other people say, oh, that's great, I got $400. And someone else might say, that was good, $1,000 for me. So again, everyone's different. If you, let me just say, like on my handout, I know where I'm going, sorry. I'm talking too fast, I know. I'm a fast talker. Some people say to me that they have no need to file a state tax return. They say, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I don't have a need to file state taxes. I collect Social Security, I have a public pension that's not taxed by the state. So, you know, for some people, their situation, they say, I can't benefit by that because I don't file a state tax return, but that's not true. And I say, don't cut yourself short. Even though you don't have a need to file a state tax return, if the numbers work for you, if you're eligible, you're still entitled to the credit. The nice thing about this credit, and I have it in bold on my handout, like 3/4 of the way down, this is a refundable credit with the state. So the people that don't have a need to file a tax return based on their income, if the numbers work for them and they're still eligible to get it, we're going to send them a check, or we're going to put the money in their bank account with direct deposit. But in order to do that, you have to file the return. You don't file the return, you can't claim the credit, right? So there's two things. You can go back and make a correction. Sometimes people say to me, you know, you can go back and correct 2020, 21, 22. The thing is, you've got to pay attention, because if you think that you might be eligible for 2020, the state will give you 3 years to come back to us, to come forward and say, I wasn't aware of it. I missed out. I think I qualified for 2020. You need to get in touch with us to file for it by April 15th. So you have a month to address 2020. When we come back here next year, on my handout, I'm going to have the information for tax year of 2024, but 2020 has dropped off of my handout because it's past that. It's gone. Too late, right? So I just want to make that point that if you think for 20, you got to take care of it. Any questions that we have up to this point? Yes?
How did it jump so well between 2022 and 2023?
First, I need to see some money from you. Okay, so the question was, how come we saw a significant jump in the credit? I'm glad you noticed that. From 22, the maximum credit was at $1,200. When we look at tax year 23 on my handout, it jumped up to $2,590. The legislature, our state senators and the rest have got together, and what they did is part of the state budget is they're funding this credit. That's where the money's coming from. So they are the folks that provided this increase in the tax, pretty significant, more than double, from $1,200 to $2,590, right? So that's a good question. I'm glad you mentioned that. Part of that tax relief package that we heard about in the fall. Okay. Other questions? Yes.
What if we have a resident in a multi-family building not paying a water bill?
Okay.
Is there any way for them to get credit for a share of whatever the bill is for their condo, for example?
Okay. So kind of like an indirect kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you live in a condo complex, you could get, you're still entitled, maybe part of your homeowner association fee that you're paying, part of it is paying the water bill. You can get in touch with who's ever paying the bills, the administrator, the manager, the trustee of the organization, whatever it is. Ask them, what did we pay as a group in water? And then, what's my share? So a lot of times the homeowner association fee is based on your percentage of ownership. So you might own 10% of the whole complex. And usually it's based on how much area you own of the complex, right? So if I have a 2-bedroom unit, my share is greater than someone that has 1 bedroom, whatever. But whoever is paying the bills could tell you what your share of the water bill was, and you're entitled to take half of your amount. So it might take a little extra step, right, a little extra work, but it can be done. You're still able to include. Thank you for asking. That's a good question. Other questions?
Good. Is there something that ties back to septic systems that were released and so on?
Okay. We're going to talk about septic in 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone go with the circuit breaker. Yes.
Just have a couple of years back, I won some money. And that had to
Got
do
any
with
left?
that. I came into this world with nothing, and I got most of it left. So
There you go.
it had to be included in income, so it kicked me out of the
Okay.
circuit breaker. Because it was,
Sure.
but you have to include that also. It's anything, any income.
Yes, yes. So that particular year, it knocked you out, but maybe afterwards you're back in, right? But you bring up a good point. It is gross income, total income.
It's a line from the state tax that represents gross income.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a little tricky because the state doesn't tax Social Security.
Yeah, right.
But in the calculation with, are you having a hard time paying your real estate tax? When you actually do the schedule, where you work the numbers, they're going to ask you to include your Social Security. It's not going to become taxable, but we try to get an idea, like a true picture of your income. And is that why you're having difficulty with your real estate tax?
If you're getting a credit against your property tax,
Yes.
what would you use as what you're paying?
Good question. Okay, so if the town is able to help you out a little bit with some type of adjustment that they can provide, we're talking about the amount that you actually pay. So if your real estate tax was going to be $7,000, but you did the senior work program, maybe for $1,000. So in fact, you paid $6,000. That's the number we're working with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Yes.
My house is in trust, but I pay
pay taxes and all that stuff.
Okay, excellent. So you're still eligible. Just because your property is put in a trust doesn't change, okay? What you need to do, there are basically like two types of trusts, grantor and non-grantor. So you're gonna need to find out what kind of trust your property is in. And if you're a trustee of a grantor trust, you're gonna do the schedule and work the numbers as a homeowner. If you have a non-grantor trust, or if you're not a trustee in a grantor trust, you're going to fill out the schedule as a renter. Okay? So like you're still eligible, but it's just, that's kind of how they look at it. Okay? So and we can talk further about it if you want afterwards. And I don't expect anybody to be, you know, I'm going to be here. What's for dinner? You just stayed. I'm going to be here, I'm not going to run away. So sometimes people like, I wouldn't expect you to tell me, this is my income, or this is what I pay in real estate tax. You don't want to do that. But if you want to speak to me, sometimes people say like, did I hear you right? Like, you know, this is my income, and this is what I'm paying, and they just kind of want to affirm or run some numbers by me, that's fine. If you've had enough tax talk for one day, you're welcome to leave. I'm not offended at all. It's fine. I know you can only take so much of it. We're going to talk about septic credit if we're going to do the circuit breaker. Okay. Any other questions on the senior circuit breaker tax credit? Okay. Do you guys have tax assistants here for the septic? Okay. So I won't talk about it. Let me just give you another bit of advice while I have you. The state also offers a septic credit for people that need to replace or make a significant upgrade to their septic system. The state knows that anytime we mention the word septic, the cash register goes off, right? It's expensive whenever you talk about septic. So this credit has been around for a long time as well, but how often does that come up? Not very often. Usually, sometimes people refer to it as Title V, and it doesn't usually come up until like you're ready to sell your house, right? So part of the inspection is they're going to inspect your septic system, and if it fails, they're going to tell you that you need to replace or make some significant upgrade so that it will pass inspection, right? So part of the tax relief package that the senator and the legislators approved in the fall, again, the tax relief, you ladies are free to go. Thank you. Okay, bye now. So part of the tax relief package that was passed for the septic credit, the legislature knows that this is an expensive, septic is expensive, right? So what they did is they increased the amount that's going to be allowed, like in the calculation. They increased it to $30,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but if you haven't had septic work done and replaced your septic system, you know, when you actually talk to someone, you probably fall off your chair when you get the amount of money, right? So we're going to look at the first $30,000 that you spend. We're going to allow you to take 60% of your cost. So if you spend $40,000 to do it, I'm sorry, but the cap is at $30,000. If it costs you $25,000 to do it, we're gonna look at your expense of $25,000. We're gonna take 60%.
Hey, how much? 50, so what do you say, 50 or
60% of whatever you spend, not to exceed $30,000. So let's say you max out. 60% of $30,000 is $18,000. You're going to have a tax credit with the Commonwealth of Mass on your tax return of $18,000. You can't use it all in the first year. You have 5 years to use it. The other stipulation with septic credit is you have to apply the septic credit towards your tax liability with Massachusetts.
You said 50% of 30,000 is 18?
60%.
Say, oh, that's what I asked before.
You want to write it down for me?
I asked you if you said 50%.
So, okay, so we got 60% of $30,000, $18,000. We have 5 years to use it. You have to apply the credit. You use like $4,500 each year against your state income tax. Some people might say, you know, my state income tax is only $2,500. I'm going to use $2,500 and carry the rest forward with me that I can hopefully use down the road, right? If it gets to be the end of 5 years and you've only used $14,000 of it, I'm sorry, you missed out on the $4,000, but you were able to take advantage of the $14,000, right? The thing with septic credit, there's no age requirement. So it's different than senior circuit breaker, where we talked about you have to be 65. If I could be 25 years old and replace a septic system on the house that I own, and I'm eligible for the septic credit, okay? The other thing with septic credit is it's not refundable. You have to be able to use it against a state tax liability based on your income, built into your income tax. For someone that we talked about earlier that maybe has Social Security that's not taxed by the state, or they have a public pension because they're a retired school teacher, police officer, firefighter, and their income is not taxed by the state. So if they don't have a state tax liability, unfortunately, they can't utilize that septic credit that they've got against, they don't have a state tax. So circuit breaker is different than septic. There are actually about 20 different credits from the Commonwealth of Mass. Some are more common than others. Another common one is like lead paint removal, which that's available for the Commonwealth too. The Commonwealth knows that lead paint abatement, if you need to de-lead your unit or your rental unit or your home or whatever, it's expensive. So there's a there's a credit for that. There's a credit from Massachusetts for solar panels. People that put the solar on their roof, there's a $1,000 credit from the Commonwealth of Mass in the year that you do the installation.
How about a chimney?
A chimney. Let me check my book. No chimneys. I know it's expensive, right? Chimney work is, masonry is expensive. I'm sorry.
We did well.
Good. Oh, good.
One guy wanted 10.
Yeah.
The guy we went with was 3,000.
Wow.
Guess who we went with?
Yeah. Oh, good for you. Good. I wish I had one of those, but I
Oh,
don't.
somebody told me that you could get credit, so you can.
Not for masonry. No, not with Massachusetts. Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Now, is there the town is debating sewage,
Yes.
is there a tax credit for sewage?
There is. So sewerage. So I'm on septic, but the town is bringing the sewer line right down my street. If I'm required to tie into the sewer line, if I'm mandated to do it, again, it's expensive. The septic credit that we just talked about pertains to that situation. Yes.
And what if you don't tie into it, but you have to pay for it?
Why would you do that?
If we have that, which we won't have, but if we did.
Okay, yeah. Betterments are kind of a specialized thing, but yeah, it applies to that as well. Yes. So basically, if you have the expense, the credit is available to try to help you offset the expense. Yeah. Yes.
What about asbestos? My house has the old asbestos siding.
Yeah.
He said it's removed.
No, I said lead paint. Let's put words in my mouth.
If he tells you it was jokes.
I wish we had asbestos, but we don't. I'm sorry. Other questions? Okay. All right. Again, I'll be here if you want to talk to me personally. I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I want to thank you for your attention. I hope the credits, I hope it works out for you. And the sun will be back tomorrow. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.